Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today.
You know, Billy, today we have a really interesting show. We have a first-time guest, which I know you're all excited about, but I think he's been talked about by others.
I was going to say that was shocking that this is a first-timer to me. I'm like, surely he has been on here before.
But he's watched. He's watched several times.
Okay, so he's a long-time viewer.
Long-time viewer. Exactly.
All right.
And then we have our new Wings of Kentucky. So we're really looking forward to seeing that as well.
Yeah, we're really excited. Thank you all for being with us today. We're going to have Mr. Carl Harper with us. Carl is a longtime friend of our department and also all of those who deal with kind of forestry and wildlife related issues here in the state. He works here at UK in the Department of Entomology, which is also part of the State Entomologist office, which is housed within there. So Carl's part of that team, and he's done a lot of great work for forestry related efforts for many years here in Kentucky. But he does have a couple of citizen science activities that are, I guess, ongoing or upcoming. There's some real opportunities to get some engagement. So we're really excited to have Carl talking about those here in a few minutes. And then, as you mentioned, we do have our DJ McNeil, who does such a wonderful job with our Wings of Kentucky. And we're going to be talking about that avian reproduction cycle right now and how that goes. You're going to see a lot of activity with nest building and other things going on. So we're going to talk, kind of pull back some of the veil a little bit and look inside that a little bit more. So really glad to have Dr. McNeil with his presentation as well, but glad to have you all with us. If you all have questions for our presenters or Renee or myself, please use the chat function and we can interact with you that way. If you are a YouTube viewer or a podcast listener, thank you. But we would love to communicate with you as well. You can hit us up via email at forestry.extension@uky.edu and we can respond that way. But really excited for this show today, Renee, and really get started.
Yeah, great. We really enjoy you all being with us every week, so we can go ahead and get started there. So if we want to go ahead and get that video rolling, we can start watching the Wings of Kentucky.
All right, and Carl, we'll see you in a little bit.
Just a sec.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the video going.
Okay, folks, welcome to another Wings of Kentucky. I'm excited to talk to you all today about the avian reproductive cycle. We're going to be revisiting a species we've talked about quite a bit on Wings of Kentucky, the American robin. And the reason we're talking about the avian reproductive cycle is this marvel of nature is happening right about now. Some species have actually already fledged young for the year, but many others are in the nest building phase and incubation phase. And as more species, especially the long distance neotropical migrants, trickle in, Kentucky's landscapes are going to be filled with breeding birds. So I think it's very helpful for us all to revisit the avian reproductive cycle and brush up on some of our terms and aspects of life history. So let's dive right in to an introduction to the reproductive cycle with a focus on the American robin. So the American robin is a very familiar bird. Again, we talk about it pretty regularly on Wings of Kentucky. The scientific name, Turdus migratorius. Turdus is, of course, somewhat amusing, especially for those like myself with a middle school sense of humor, but it actually means thrush, which is what the American robin is. And of course, as you might expect, migratorius refers to the highly migratory nature of the American thrush. So its scientific name translates to thrush that migrates, which basically all of them in North America do. So it's a very familiar backyard bird in Kentucky. Of course, they certainly migrate to and from Kentucky, but we have some number of American robins present all year round. So its migratory nature is maybe a little less obvious here than it is in some other places. We'll review a little bit about the identification. Here on the left, I've shown a male, and on the right, a female. Both sexes have this kind of gray colored back, a dark gray or a black head with some number of white markings around the eyes and throat, and a rufous underparts. In the male, the rufous tends to be a much darker and more consistent, almost a reddish, rusty orangey color. On the female, this rufous is oftentimes paler, and with some particularly young or pale birds, they may be scalloped with little white fringes like we see on this bird. But in other examples, just not to gaslight folks, some pairs of robins, the male and female, can look more similar to each other, and it's not always clear who's who. But I would say the average male looks more like this, and the average female looks more like this. The female tends to have more white on the face, especially on the throat, again, around the eyes. The head is a paler color, so the male can be almost black. In fact, in some parts of Appalachia, this black will even go down into the mantle. I've even seen some birds that have some light streaking on the back. So there's some variation there, but males tend to have a lot more dark on the head and nape and mantle. Female tends to be much lighter, and even the parts that are sort of dark are going to be dark gray instead of black, or less extensive black. Even the gray on the back is going to be paler on a female, darker on a male, and we've already talked about that breast and flank color. So it's a thrush in the family Turdidae, so they kind of forage like a typical thrush. And what I mean by that is they spend a lot of time running around on the ground, like this bird here, looking and listening for insects. And I mean, it's hard to deny one of their favorites are earthworms. So watch for American robin running around on the ground, looking and listening for earthworms. They'll eat other things too, especially in the winter. They'll feed on a lot of fruit and occasionally other things. I mean, I've even had them at my feeder here at UK feeding on sunflower seed. Now that's fairly unusual, but not unheard of. So let's learn a few of the vocalizations of the American robin. So certainly the first one we're going to focus on here is the main primary song, which is only given by males, or pretty much only. And it's this rich, rolling, cheerio, cheery up, which many of us are familiar with. And if you aren't familiar with it, you may be familiar with it and just don't realize it. When I wake up in the morning and leave my house when it's still pretty dark in the morning, all I hear for miles in every direction are just like hundreds of American robin. So listen to this and think about that song that you often hear early in the morning. Now, the American robin makes a large number of other vocalizations too. For instance, they produce a whinny call that they use for interacting mostly with other robins, and you hear this pretty often. So listen for the American robin whinny call. They do this more or less constantly, so you hear that song interspersed with that whinny call. Another vocalization you'll occasionally hear usually is given in alarm. It's the put or the tuck call, or often a put and a tuck mixed together. And if it sounds like I'm talking craziness, let me play those for you. Here's a robin that's producing the put and tuck calls, usually an alarm call, frequently given if, say, a predator is threatening their nest, for example. One last call that people struggle with, because it reminds them of cedar waxwing, I would argue, is the very high-pitched, thin squeak that they produce, usually, at least it's said, in response to an overhead bird of prey. Now, there's a whinny in this audio file as well, so try and ignore the whinny and just listen to the high-pitched note. That's an American robin as well. So a wide variety of vocalizations. That song is only used by the male and primarily for courtship and for territorial defense. And speaking of courtship, the American robin, if I can move through here, engages in fairly extensive courtship where the male will spend time feeding the female, which is what's happening here with various insects as part of their courtship. obviously copulation, where the male and female are actually mating. That'll happen many times per day during the egg laying phase, nest construction phase, and it's just part of courtship itself. In the American robin, we see what's called mate guarding, and we see this in a lot of other bird species too. And what mate guarding is, where the male follows the female around, even when they're not actively doing the deed, as it were, the male may just follow the female around all the time, hanging out with her to prevent her from mating with other males, which happens a lot in the avian kingdom, where birds will have a social pair, male and a female, male A and female A. Female A may sneak away from male A and mate with a neighboring guy. So when she lays her eggs, one of the babies may be fathered by the neighboring guy, and let's say 3 are fathered by the main guy. So what happens is the father may end up raising some young that are not his. Now, the male's doing the same thing, of course, on the side. He is both waiting for females to come to him from other territories and occasionally sneaking into other males' territories to obtain extra mating opportunities. So there's a lot of that debauchery going on in the avian world. We call that an extra pair copulation. So extra pair meaning outside the pair, copulation meaning mating. Now, the male and the female sort of build the nest together. Now, when I say together, the female's doing all the work. To be clear, she builds the nest herself, but the male hangs out and inspects and helps to identify locations where the female might put that nest and so forth. Once they get that nest built, which is usually a base of clay and mud with some plant matter interspersed into it, and then it kind of becomes more plant focused as it gets bigger and bigger. Once you get that, the female begins to lay eggs, and eggs are laid at a rate of 1 per day, with a full clutch size of 4 to 5 eggs being fairly typical for American robins. And incubation is done pretty much exclusively by the female. So here's, of course, a clutch of robin's eggs, which are that lovely robin's egg blue. We have a female incubating a nest here, and then this weird picture. You're like, what the heck is that? This is the belly of an American robin, the female. If you were to catch her in the hand and you were to blow really hard on her belly and all the feathers spread apart, you would see this weird, wrinkly belly. And this wrinkly, weird belly that doesn't have a lot of feathers on it, this is the brood patch. And the purpose of the brood patch, and it only forms during reproduction, is so that the female can sort of flop those wrinkly belly skin right over top of those eggs and get more surface area contact to transfer heat from her body to the eggs to aid in incubation. So while the female is incubating these eggs, the male is basically visiting her regularly and feeding her so that she doesn't have to get off the nest very often. Okay, next up, we have hatching. So after the eggs have been fully incubated, they start to hatch, and we get these weird little ugly nestlings here. Their eyes are fully closed. They can't see anything, but they're very sensitive to touch. So if mom happens to get off the nest for a few minutes and then come back, the second they feel her touching the nest, they're going to raise their little heads up and beg for food. In fact, if the mom is off the nest and the little babies are sleeping like these two right here, a person could go up, touch the nest, and those little babies will automatically raise up their heads and beg for food. They are very sensitive to touch. But for the most part, when the nestlings are this young, when in a very young nestling is called hatchling, when the young hatchlings are very tiny, the female rarely stops brooding them, brooding being the term for keeping them warm. So she sits on them basically all day long, every day, until they're a little bit older. And the male is going to continue feeding her and feed the nestlings primarily. Now, of course, the baby birds have to poop as well. And what happens is in a lot of baby birds, American robins included, their feces comes out of the cloaca in like a gelatinous sac called a fecal sac. And in the case of the American robin, they carry it away and they either drop it or more often they just eat it. I don't really know why some species of birds eat the fecal sac and some species of birds carry it off and drop it. But my understanding is that the American robin generally eats the fecal sac of the baby. Nature is funny sometimes. Okay, so as the nestlings grow older, so we no longer call these hatchlings, they're pretty big. At this point, we would call them nestlings, and they're getting bigger and they've just got a little bit of down, but are otherwise fully naked during this time. As they get older and older, they're better able to thermoregulate. Here we have nestlings that still have their eyes closed. These ones, you can't see it in this picture, but are starting to get to the point where they can open their eyes. And more importantly, they're developing these weird, freaky little things all along their body, which, as you might expect, are going to be their feathers. In fact, these are called pin feathers. They are vascularized growing feathers. They're in like a waxy sheath. Each feather is in there. It's vascularized. So if you were to like cut one in half, it would actually bleed. So it's got a blood source to it. Once the feather breaks out of that sheath, which we're going to look at in a few minutes, it is inert. It does not have a blood supply. The bird has no feeling in that feather. And there's no blood or anything. It can be plucked out. You can be cut. It doesn't injure the bird. But when they're at this pin feather stage, they're vascularized and they're growing. So here we have young that are 10 days old and 13 days old. These are still nestlings. Look at the pin feathers on these suckers. They're getting pretty big. In fact, you can see the tips on some of these are starting to break open. And then finally, by day 13, these guys are looking very different. Look, day 10 to day 13, that is like night and day. They look pretty hideous right here, and they're looking somewhat on the cute side on this at this point. And these young nestlings, or excuse me, these old nestlings, are just about ready to fledge the nest. So the act of fledging is when a bird jumps out of the nest and it graduates from being a nestling to a fledgling, which is what we have here. Here's a little fresh fledgling American robin. Notice this spotted plumage. We've got white spots all over the back. We've got a very different plumage than the adult. It's certainly reminiscent of the adult plumage, but does have a lot of differences as well. Some things to keep in mind about fledglings. They're mobile, unlike nestlings, right? Nestlings stay in the nest all the time. Fledglings are hopping around and flying around. At first, they cannot fly. So this little robin, maybe it can fly short distances. Look how short the tail is. The wings are very short. This bird may just be able to flutter a little bit. In fact, for the first couple days, they may not be able to do much of anything other than hop around. And you're going to see these birds in your yard, and it's important to bear in mind that this is part of the reproductive cycle of a passerine bird. Their young cannot fly oftentimes when they fledge the nest, at least for open cup nesters, and it's very normal. Obviously, if the bird is in danger, it can be picked up and moved somewhere else, but generally you want to just let nature take its course in this situation. The adults are feeding the babies. The fledglings, this is called provisioning, to feed a baby bird. They're also teaching the young how to forage for themselves, so demonstrating the teaching or the foraging right in front of the young, helping the young to recognize and avoid predators as well. So here's a cute little American robin fledgling in the hand. It's important to let them be out in the field and not bother them as much as you can avoid it. Another thing that's worth mentioning, though, it's a very common misconception that if a baby bird gets touched, its parents will abandon it. Now, you don't want to touch them for other reasons, primarily because your scent can draw predators to the baby, but it's not a concern of the adults abandoning them. Okay, so finally, after mom and dad say, all right, we're done taking care of you, you're on your own, the birds graduate to what we call a juvenile. So this is a relatively early juvenile, and this one is older. Juvenile birds wear the juvenile plumage, which is what they grew while they were in the nest, spotted on the front and on the back. And as the weeks progress, they eventually shed these spotted feathers, these juvenile feathers, and grow their first adult feathers. And this is what we call the preformative molt. It's a fancy ornithological term for basically their first adult plumage. And there are some subtle differences between the adult plumage and the juvenile, or the formative plumage. So basically what the adults really wear and the young wear after they molt. But it's pretty much the same. This bird's kind of halfway in between. But the juvenile period is really important in a lot of birds because they spend that time not only continuing to enhance their foraging skills and ability to fly and avoid predators, but they do this behavior called prospecting. So prospecting is where young birds basically set out on their own and they figure out, all right, it's fall time now or getting close to fall. Where am I going to breed next year for my first breeding season? And that decision is thought to often be made in the summer or the fall when these young birds are exploring the landscape and saying, hey, this spot here seems pretty good. This is where I'm going to make a go of it and reproduce. So as the spring and summer continues to advance, we're going to witness this really remarkable aspect of the avian life history. So be on the lookout for nestlings, fledglings, juveniles, courting birds, and all of these aspects of the avian breeding cycle. Till next time, thank you for joining me on Wings of Kentucky, and I'll be looking forward to our next edition. Thank you very much.
Those are always really, really neat subjects that he talks about. Things that a lot of times things that you don't even think about, that you see all the time, but you don't think about it. And I have heard that several times. Don't touch baby birds because the mom won't come back to them. So I'm glad he addressed that.
Yeah, I love Dr. G.J. McNeil's presentations, his content. It's so good. It was so fascinating to see that change in 3 days, how
I know,
quickly
right?
they
It
changed.
feels like our kids do that, but really they don't. But it does feel that way.
Oh, well, no, really appreciate Dr. McNeil and all the work he does here and sharing with our audience. So thank you, Dr. McNeil. Yes, good stuff.
Good stuff. So moving on to our next good stuff, we have Carl
Yes.
Harper that's going to be on. So Carl, if you want to join us.
Yay! So excited. I can't believe you're a first timer, Carl. We've known each other for so long. You've done so much great work in the forestry realm for so many years. It's about time we've had you over here.
Thanks for inviting me. We'll see how we do. I'm excited to be able to talk about what I'm getting ready to talk about today.
Excellent. Well,
Go ahead.
we appreciate you, buddy.
This puppy started up here. I had to make sure showed the curtains opening.
I love that. I don't know if you saw that beginning, Billy, but I love the curtain. Awesome.
All right, so I'm ready to go whenever you say go.
We're ready to have it. Yep.
Yeah, you're not sharing yet. So
I'm not sharing yet. I thought I had clicked the share. Obviously, I did not. And
Yeah, share.
there we go. Now it's started.
Yay! There we go. Excellent. All right, Carl, it's all yours.
All
Sir.
yours. Take it away.
thank you very much. So thank you again. My name is Carl Harper, and I am with Kentucky's Office of the State Entomologist. And it is an honor to speak with you all today about the invasive pests and how you can slow the spread. And so that's what my title currently is, but it's really done through bringing together surveys, technology, and outreach. And that's what I've been able to get the opportunity to do with the things that we have. But I wanted to step back just a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of background about our office. And it's going to be a high level view, so it's going to just be a little touch base on the things that we do in our office so that you know where we're coming from and where I'm coming from in that. So outside of invasives and state surveys, we do licensing and certifications, and we come about because of the Kentucky Revised Statutes. That's the state laws, Chapter 249. And that's how we exist. We've been around since 1897, or at least the office has. And we've been doing this work ever since. And the biggest thing that we do is because way back when California was sending, like in the 1800s, infested plant material that had San Jose scale on it to other states, and the states got together and said, we don't need this. And they started developing the State Entomologist Office to manage the movement of regulated pests. Most of the offices of the State Entomologist are at the Department of Agriculture. But we are through the University of Kentucky. And in South Carolina, the office is through Clemson. And it actually all started through the university system because that's where the knowledge base was, but over time moved to the departments of ag. And we're state counterparts with USDA, APHIS, PPQ, and for those of you, APHIS is Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. PPQ is the Plant Protection and Quarantine. And so they're the regulatory arm in the federal government, and we're just their state counterparts in the state. And we deal with export certification mainly. So if you send a plant or plant product out of the country, there is paperwork to do. Our office does that. But we also assist with importing, permitting, And if you're moving out of Kentucky to some states and you want to take your house plants with you, sometimes there's certification that needs to be done for that, and that's what our office does. And so with the work that we do, it's a natural fit for monitoring for invasives and pests of concern. I just created some links, as you can see here, on a landing page for the general public to be able to navigate and learn more. And it's become a big part of what our office does, and the technology that we have developed, we're trying to adapt and utilize those technologies. And so that's just a little bit about our office, just to kind of give you that high level. But I do want to touch a little bit on invasives, give a little bit of background on invasives and their impact. The federal definition of an invasive species is a species that is non-native or alien to the ecosystem under consideration, and whose introduction causes or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. Non-native species are plants and animals living in areas where they do not naturally exist. And this is a picture of the emerald ash borer that I have showing on this slide. The introduction and establishment of invasive species to the U.S., whether it's intentional or unintentional, it can compose a significant threat to native and plant communities. Invasive species can lead to the extinction of native plants, animals. It can destroy biodiversity, and it can permanently alter habitats. And here you can see a picture of the Asian longhorn beetle, where the pencil is the exit hole. And then on the right, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more, is the spotted lanternfly. But our office participates in a multiple surveys. We do a lot of trapping as well as visual type surveys. And there's a lot of these surveys that I think would be neat for citizen scientists to be involved in, but some of the trapping and how they are handled can be logistically challenging. And so we haven't went down that road yet, but there are a couple that you can do, and that's what I want to touch base on so that you're aware of it. One is spongy moth, and it is one that I'm going to give, again, a kind of a high level view of it so you can see where I'm coming from, but it is a caterpillar with an appetite. So a little bit of the biology, most of you may know this, but these are the life stages. You got the caterpillar, the adult male and female, and then the egg mass. The caterpillar is what causes the damage. They used to be called gypsy moth, but with a Better Common Names project with Entomological Society of America, they started changing the common names. And so it's no longer gypsy moth. That's what it used to be called. So if you remember it as gypsy moth, it's now called spongy moth. The one that we are surveying for, and that's established in the United States actually, is this pest, and it's the European gypsy moth, and the female doesn't fly. There's also a flighted spongy moth complex, formerly known as Asian gypsy moth. They're not known to be in the United States, and it's good because the female does fly, which would make trapping a little more challenging. Spongy moth was introduced by Leopold Trouvelot back in the late 1800s. He was going to make his fortune in silk, but that failed. Although, that being said, his introduction did not. It's been around ever since. And they are destructive. So why are they so destructive? They're defoliators, and they feed on several hundred species of trees and shrubs. They prefer hardwoods, and oaks happen to be their favorite. And Kentucky is an oak dominant forest. And so that is one of the things that I have a concern with. And you can see the pictures here of the caterpillar feeding upon the leaves. So it is the caterpillar stage. The caterpillars are so destructive because they can cause severe defoliation. Populations typically are eruptive in North America. This is a springtime picture. You should be seeing leaves on the trees, but this type of defoliation where you have high populations, it makes it look like winter in spring. Here you see the federal spongy moth quarantine map. And as you can see here in eastern Kentucky, Pike County, the shaded counties are where the pest is established, and it's knocking on Kentucky's door. The different colors are actually related to the year that they have become established. But the thing about spongy moth is we've got a very good trapping system. It's a very reliable system. It's a small delta trap with sticky on the sides and the bottom. A string lure that is a pheromone lure that attracts the male moths. We place the traps. We have a regular trapping program. We set around between 3,000 and 4,000 traps across the state on a 3-kilometer grid. So it is one that we are looking for it. And here is an adult male that's caught in the trap, and you can kind of see the feathery antenna. So that's spongy moth. And so next I want to touch base a little bit on spotted lanternfly, and we're going to drop down a little bit. I say 20,000 foot view, but maybe more likely a 10,000 foot view, however you want to look at it, because I'm going to give a little bit of background on spotted lanternfly. It's Lycorma delicatula is its scientific name. It's a plant hopper native to China, possibly Vietnam, Bangladesh, and India. Though this insect has only been known to science for less than a century, it's been becoming a substantial pest in places around the world over the last 20 years. In 2005, it was first reported outside of its natural range in South Korea, and causing substantial damage to grapevines there. And several years later, found in Japan. And then in 2014, it was detected in the U.S. in Berks County, Pennsylvania. And the insect has become a major pest on trees, grapes, other fruits, landscape plants, and it's causing millions and to billions of dollars in economic losses. The spotted lanternfly is a sap-feeding insect, uses a long needle-like mouth part to pierce plant tissues and suck out fluids. Spotted lanternflies are highly mobile, and both adults and nymphs can quickly jump and travel several feet when disturbed. Adults are winged and can fly up to 90 yards without stopping for rest. And one of the most important life history traits that's been, contributing to the spread of this pest is their egg-laying habits. The insects will lay their eggs on nearly any hard surface, and this is an egg mass that's laid. This is an egg mass that is spent. Spongy moth does the same thing, is it will lay its eggs on nearly any surface. Here's a little bit of a life cycle. We'll start over here on the right-hand side, talking about when they hatch. Spotted lanternflies are univoltine, meaning they only have one generation a year. They typically hatch in May or June as small little black nymphs with white dots on them. They are sometimes mistaken for small ticks or spiders, but then they'll have some instars. They'll start molting into different instars, getting bigger is really all it's doing, growing. And they all look the same until about the fourth instar, and then they will change color. They become red with the black and white dots. And then, as you can see, when they become an adult, that red that you're used to seeing with the wings open in some pictures, they're really kind of a dull pinkish in color, but then they'll lay their eggs, and then the cycle will start again. Here's a map of the counties where spotted lanternfly populations are established, and it's already out of date. This was in 2024, and even in 2024, when you look in Kentucky, it was already missing some counties by the time the map was put together. So I want to show you here is Berks County, Pennsylvania. This is where the first find was in the United States, and it's traveled across the United States ever since. It's believed that they were introduced in a landscaping stone shipment from China. And so they thought the egg masses were on that, and that's how they got established. If we fast forward to 2024, you can kind of see the spread here, but I'm going to focus obviously on Kentucky and show you the distribution in Kentucky. In Kentucky, it was found in October of 2023 in Gallatin County, just across the river from the infestation over in Indiana. But in 2024, another 7 counties have been found, and we'll see what happens here in 2025. Here's a map that shows the suitability of the different regions for spotted lanternfly establishment, and it's based on the climatic preferences of the insect in Asia, where it is most found in regions with temperate climates, and you can see Kentucky falls into that moderate to high risk range. And the tree of heaven. It's the primary host of the spotted lanternfly, and its widespread abundance in the eastern U.S. As you can see in the map here, it's pretty much all across the United States. It's a primary host for spotted lanternfly. Tree of heaven is short-lived. It's fast-growing. It's prolific in its seed production, and even if you cut it off at the ground, its stump and root sprouts are very quick. My mom has one on her farm, and I've tried to cut it back, and it just keeps coming back. They're shade intolerant, but they are tolerant of poor soils and pollution, and they're allelopathic, so they are releasing chemicals into the soil that inhibits the growth of other plants, and so that's preventing competing native plants from establishing in the area. But it doesn't stop there. There are other hosts more that you may be more aware of, and it's one of the trees of particular risk is maple. So maple is one that's of concern, but they also feed on others. They feed on birches, walnuts, hickories, yellow poplar, oak, willows, sycamore, dogwoods. So they feed on a number of things to keep going. They actually feed on some garden and landscaping plants. They've been reported to feed on roses, hibiscus, lilac, even basil. But they feed on many other plants and are known to attack over 100 different species. But here is why the spotted lanternfly is where its largest economic impacts are being felt, and it's in the fruits. Spotted lanternflies are a major pest of grapes and threaten both the table grape and the wine production. Their sap-sucking feeding habits, what they do is they prevent the flow of nutrients to the grapes, and they reduce yield and quality. And in fact, that feeding it causes a chemical property of the grapes, making them unsuitable as food and winemaking. And as you can see, it's not just grapes, but many other commodities that they are attacking. But we can manage it through physical means. Some of the same tools that we're using for monitoring can be used for controlling the populations of the pest. There are circle traps, there are sticky bands, there are this way you can scrape and take off the egg masses and kill them. You can physically catch them and squish them, and there are chemical methods as well. So there are ways to take care of the pest, but it's one, if we can catch it early, maybe we can stop the spread, slow the spread significantly. And so that leads me to this, is we know that our office can't do it all by ourselves, and we need help. And the citizen science program that I have started, all really based off of spongy moth initially, because that's one of the bigger programs that we do survey work for. But it's something that can be applied to many other invasive pests that we found. Citizen science been around since 1800s. In fact, until it was all science until it was basically moved into the education system and formalized as a science. But Ben Franklin would have been a citizen science in today's terminology. But it helps him involve the local environment. It improves the science literacy. It offers significant outcomes. We use this data in determining what we're going to be doing for next year. And as you know, many hands make light work. Usually it's the public that finds that unwanted pest first. It's a way to help the community. And when we're doing surveys, we're doing it with tax dollars. I'm a taxpayer just like you. And so this is a way to optimize those tax dollars by getting more bang for the buck. Citizen science is a way to then inform the public about these invasive pests, the problems that they cause, and the financial costs that are incurred. It also engages the public in the same way with these pests. It's what you learn and do, you can pass to your friends, your family, your neighbors, and so on. And it's a way to involve the public. You get to be involved in the visual surveys. You get to be involved in setting the traps, and you are physically helping us prevent establishment. And so your help is greatly going to impact educating the public, the friends, family, neighbors, and so on, as I mentioned earlier, so that they will be on the lookout for and maybe can help us mitigate the establishment and spread of these invasive pests. Because your informing, your engagement, your involvement, it helps. There's just no way around it. And we're going to be doing it again this year. 2025 is our 4th year of the citizen science program. I try to work with all the extension offices in all 120 counties, and that allows us to have a way to work with the citizens all across the state to get them the supplies that they need if they're interested in setting traps. We work with the offices to get that to you, and that allows that direct participation in the activities that our office is involved in. And the citizen scientists' work factors into the decision that we make on how to move forward. Spongy moth in particular, the first year that we had citizen science setting trap, they found 3 moths outside of the trapping area and within our regular trapping area that we wouldn't have found otherwise. It's very impactful. And along with that, just like everything else, I've created a website and lots of things tied to it so that people can learn more about it. I've got a QR code here, and I'll have one at the end that people can have and have access to, but it offers the application form. The idea is so that I can be in touch with you. Whenever you do, if you're involved in citizen science, you can go to the dashboard and see real time the data that's being submitted. There's a login section for the members so that they can have access to the different information that we have they need to do the work that we were asking them to do. And to show you a little bit from last year, we had 127 individuals or groups representing 354 participants last year in 56 counties. So all the little dots are where people registered from. And we collect this data using ArcGIS, the Survey 123 app. It's a free app. I built a form within there called Kentucky Citizen Scientist. You click the collect button and the form walks you through the steps. And I've tried to make it as easy as possible for those that are working and doing this publicly. It automatically populates the date whenever you hit collect. When you register, you give me your survey app name that you want, and then you start typing or pull it from a drop-down list. The same with the county. And then you select the survey that you want to be involved in. So if you're setting a trap or doing a visual, it automatically gives you a site ID that you can write on the trap or write on a piece of paper if you're keeping up with it. Then you will send that in, and if you go back and set the trap, or excuse me, if you set a trap and you want to check it, then you enter in that trap ID again, but then you have an option to let me know if you think you found something or no, you didn't. If you thought you did, you can send a picture, submit it, and we work through it. So it's a fairly straightforward form to fill out, I believe. The work can be done anytime for anyone at any age. There's no age limit as far as I'm concerned. And this is last year's citizen science data that we collected. There were 425 spongy moth traps set out, 30 visual spotted lanternfly reports, 48 tree of heaven reports. We had some fire ant and jumping worm as well. So we had a lot of participation. And then I want to overlay, because spongy moth is one that I focus on. The bigger triangular traps are the citizen science. The smaller one is our trapping program. As you can see, we're trapping maybe a third of the state. That's all the federal funding will allow. But all of these make a difference, and they help considerably. So this data gets sent to the federal folks for consideration for next year's survey. And as you can see with spongy moth, the pressure is close. These are all positive finds. They're pushing their way into Kentucky. So we're trying to stay focused on how we can prevent that from getting into Kentucky as long as possible. And with that, I knew I had a short time to get some things done. I had a lot of things to say, but if anybody has any questions, there's my contact information. I am more than willing to talk about this to anybody. And with that, I hand it back over to Billy and Renee.
Wonderful. Loved that presentation.
Yes, and leave this up for a minute, Carl,
Yeah,
as we
leave that up.
for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, loved it. It was funny. At one time, you had your pointer over some of the little nymphs' eyes, and I was like, "When they turn red?" I was like, "Oh," so that was funny for a second, and scary all at the same time.
Plan the whole time.
Exactly. We had
Oh,
several great questions. A lot of them Dr. Crocker has been answering in the background, so that's awesome. But some of them you're just going to have to either call Carl or Ellen because there's so much information involved that unfortunately we can't get into on the show, but we appreciate you texting and asking all these different questions. We really love it when you all get into the show.
oh yeah. I would encourage all of our viewers right now, go ahead and scan that link. And if you cannot participate, please send it to 10 people who can. We'll start this chain thing, right? You remember the chain mail or the chain letter?
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right. If you don't send it to 10 people, uh-oh, right? No, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, seriously, let's help Carl out on this if we can, folks. And we've got a great group of viewers and listeners out there, Carl, that I think will be really engaged and hopefully be a good help to this efforts or the efforts that you've got going on. It seems like you've made it really easy for people to participate, and that's critical. So, really nice work, buddy.
Thank you very much. And I'm always open to, how I can make it easier for them to engage because that's what it takes.
Oh yeah, I mean it takes all of us for sure, and yeah, I really appreciate your approach and all the work that you all do out of the office of the state entomologist. And we have so many good friends and colleagues in the Department of Entomology that help out so much, and our disciplines interact so much. So Carl, thank you really, and thanks to the whole team over there for the work you all do.
Now, there was a question about showing that website again for the citizen science, but does that QR code just take them to the application form, or does it actually take them to
It will
that
take them to the citizen science page.
website?
You can
Okay,
get there through this
through that
link as
QR code.
well, the osc.uky.edu. It all it'll drive you to the citizen science. There's links there, and my phone number's here, email is here. If there's even any hesitation or whatever, I can help. Obviously,
Folks, just break out your phones and take a picture of this slide, and you'll have all the information you need.
yeah.
And if you forget, holler back at Renee or I, and we'll get you
Exactly.
in contact with Carl.
We'll get in contact with Carl.
Oh yeah.
Good
Thank
stuff, Carl.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
we'll have you back next time, okay, buddy?
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your presentation there. All right, folks, we encourage you to help Carl out and the Office of the State Entomologist. It helps us all.
Definitely.
Yep.
Thank you,
Good
Carl.
deal. Awesome. All right. Take care, Carl.
All right. So, there is another thing that can help woodland owners out, and that is something that you are providing for them. You're going to show them a little bit of information on some stuff that's coming up shortly.
Yes, yeah, Renee, I'm so glad to be able to share this with our audience. We have been working, a number of us here in our unit, as well as many partners across the state of Kentucky, to assemble the 2025 edition of the Kentucky Woodland Owners Short Course. And we're pleased to announce the dates and locations for all of that right now. We will have the registration up and coming soon, but I will let folks know that we're going to start out in June, on June 10th. That's a Tuesday evening, and then we're going to run every Tuesday and Thursday in June for 6 sessions through the 26th. And this is a great opportunity to get a lot of good information about woodlands in Kentucky, wildlife in Kentucky, water issues in Kentucky. You're going to get a chance to meet many of the organizations that are out there to serve woodland owners through these webinars. So even if you can't come to the field sessions, we have an option to do online only. So I think you'll get a lot of great content out of this, Renee. So any of our viewers that may not be close to the field sessions, don't let that prohibit you from participating in the online sessions. Again, the content will get you ready for when we get those field sessions a little closer to you in the future. But please go ahead and mark your calendars. We will have the registration coming soon. And then we have 2 field events that we're going to do. So you have the option of attending all 6 online sessions and then selecting one of the field sessions. So that we're going to be on July 19th. We're going to be in Whitley County. We're going to be starting out at the Whitley County office down there, but we do have a farm that we're going to tour. We're going to be looking at some of the management, wildlife, and woodland management practices that have been done there. And we're going to have at these on field sessions, Renee, we've got this new thing we're starting, this Woodland Owner Resource Extravaganza. So it's going to be an opportunity for all of our landowners to really meaningfully connect with the organizations and agencies that can help them take care of their property. You're going to get a chance to meet with those folks that can come out to your property, help you plan conservation activities, teach you how to do them, and hopefully get you signed up to participate in some programs that may offset the costs or help you get some assistance in getting that work done. So it's going to be a really great opportunity to really jumpstart your woodland management. Whether you're brand new to woodland management or you've been at it for a while, this program will help further your efforts without a doubt. And we're going to have a similar type program on August 16th up in Pendleton County. We'll start out there at the Pendleton County Extension Office, and we got a nearby landowner that we're going to be visiting as well and looking at some of their practices that they've done. So this is a really great opportunity for all of our woodland owners out there in Kentucky, but not only our woodland owners, anybody that works with woodland owners or any of our natural resource professionals could also get a lot out of this. So we're really excited about this program. It's a lot of fun. I think people get a lot of great content out of it. We'll feed you well, and we'll have some great instructors for you. We just ask for a little bit of your time so we can help educate you, raise your awareness, and make some connections for you. And Renee, I'm going to go also and just share with them in the chat our little link for the website. So there's a link in the chat so you can get to our website for registration, and I can pull that up for you as well so you can kind of see what we got there.
I didn't see it in the chat yet.
Okay, hopefully it'll get over there. Oh, might have went. Oh, sorry, I sent it directly to Carl. Carl's like, well, I just made Billy when I sent it. All right, Carl, sorry about that. All right, everybody should have it. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah.
Good deal. So there is also the website for that, and you can learn a lot more about this program. You'll get a chance to meet some of the partner organizations right here. We've got some nice little short videos that kind of talk about how the many partners serve woodland owners in the state. And then real soon, we will have that registration link up and coming real soon for you here. So you can go ahead and bookmark that now and check back on that. We will be sending out through social media. We'll announce it here as well when the registration's up. But if you all are so inclined, I will encourage you to register early. We are going to be limited in space at those field sessions. We're virtually unlimited, I think, Renee, for the most part, online.
Well,
So
500, I think we can. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll fill that up as
Yeah.
well. So please spread the word, get it on everybody's calendar, and let's all learn together. And we'll have a great time this summer during the Woodland Owner Short Course.
Yeah, and if you go to that link, you'll see, if you scroll on down, you can see what each webinar topic is and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I just saw a question. Is this available for children? And this is really targeted for adults and adult owners or those that are engaged in the management of woodlands. We don't want to prohibit anybody from coming, but children may be a little bit bored in this. We have a number of other youth programs that may be more appropriate for children. I would check with our local 4-H offices. There's often great related programs at our 4-H offices, and Laurie Thomas also has some youth-related programs and activities that you can check out on our website as well. So while, again, I wouldn't really restrict somebody from coming, I don't know that'd be a good use of their time, and they would probably be bored listening to adults talking for the most part. So.
So, well, Well, good stuff, Billy. This is something that, especially, I'm really excited about that extravaganza. If you have a burning question, I mean, you bring that to them. You can talk to all the agencies there, and we always give that opportunity, but this is actually a time slotted just for that. And that's something that I don't think you've ever really just done in the past. I mean, they've had the opportunity to do that, but this time you actually have things that they can actually just go one-on-one and talk to people.
Yeah, yes, Renee, no doubt. And this is a new addition, right? We wanted to try to give landowners a chance to make all of those connections at one place, right? Right now, these offices are spread out across Kentucky. You go to this office for this part, you go to this office for this part. Well, guess what, folks? We're bringing all those offices to you so you can meet with them right there and make those connections, make those appointments, sign up for the programs, whatever you need out of these entities that are there to help you. We want to facilitate your connection with them. So this Woodland Owner Resource Extravaganza is going to be an opportunity for you to meet all these people and get going on managing your woods and taking care of your woodland property.
Definitely. Great show.
Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, really good show. Really appreciate Carl and DJ. Really, Wings of Kentucky, always appreciate those. And Carl's always so good to work with. It's great to have him on the show finally. We'll have to get him back.
That was an oversight of mine, clearly.
Well, no, yeah, we should have brought it up. I can't believe he wasn't on before. Anyway, yeah, good deal. And thank you all for being with us.
Yes, and we appreciate you, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be doing any of this.
It'd just be Renee and I talking to each other, right? That only gets us so far, right?
Yeah, we talk to each other all the time.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you joining us each and every week. And if you go to fromthewoodstoday.com, you can fill out a little survey and get some information to us if you'd like. Also, at the end of each of our shows, we have, now that's only if you're watching on Zoom, you can fill out a survey, and you can also get added to, hey, when's your show? And we'll add you to that. So you'll get reminders every week, just so you'll know what they are and you'll know what the topics are in advance. So it's, it's kind of a neat thing. We have a couple of questions on there. We'd love for you to answer if you have time.
Yes, yeah, give us some feedback, and yeah, we're trying to serve you all better, and the content you all give us helps us do a better job of that. So thanks for your interest, and thanks for helping us spread the word about the importance of our woods and wildlife here in Kentucky.
Yeah, and we will see you all next week.
All right.
Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
From the woods today. From the woods today.